A while back, I took a look at a game in the Robotech universe from SolarFlare Games called Robotech, A Force of Arms. Now at the time, I liked the game, but I did have some concerns with it being a little too simple and the scoring being a little chaotic. Well, now they're back with another game in that Robotech universe called Robotech Crisis Point that they assure me is going to be more strategic, more streamlined, and honestly, a lot more fun for me. Are they going to be right? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the game, and then we'll find out.
It's time for another Dice Tower review with Robert Geistlinger.
So here we're taking a look at Robotech Crisis Point. This is an asymmetrical two-player card game set in the Robotech universe, where one player will be the Robotech Masters and one player will be the Army of the Southern Cross. Now, for those familiar with SolarFlare Games, they did do an earlier Robotech game called Robotech, A Force of Arms that will share some similarities. If you've either played it or you saw my review here on the Dice Tower, you should see those similarities as we're playing through it, and I'll point out a few as we go and maybe give some thoughts as to how I think the two compare later in this video. Now, the game itself is played over 4 phases. You have a tactical phase, token, hero command, and then scoring. Some of that might sound familiar for those who are already familiar with the other game. Now each player is going to have unit cards, location cards, base cards, combat cards. Those are going to be played during the tactical phase. You've got your hero and command that are obviously played in the hero and command, and each player selected 2 objectives, and we'll cover those a little bit later. So on a player's turn, they're first going to play either a unit, base, or location out onto the board in one of these 16 areas in the middle. These side are for the combat cards, and each player will get 1 row and 1 column where they'll play theirs. So let's say that the Southern Cross decides to play, let's say they decide to play this particle beam droid here. Now that's going to do a few things. The first thing is it's going to generate 4 battle tokens. So we'll collect those. And it has an ability. When played, place 1 battle token, each on up to 2 enemy units that are adjacent to each other, but not adjacent to this unit. Well, that's a terrible card to have started with since there are no other units on the board, but it's what we chose. We additionally, of the tokens that we generated, have to play 1 of them out. That's the only card we can put it on. Now we're going to play a combat card, and these are not asymmetrical. They just go from 2 to 9, and they're going to be played face down. So maybe we decide to put this one here, because we're going to give this player this and this. Now it's going to be our opponent's turn. Let's say they decide to maybe play their base card. So maybe they put it here. Now the base card is special. It's going to generate combat tokens based on the number of combat cards they have left. Well, I know that they have 8. So they're going to generate 8 of these tokens. And again, they're going to have to play at least 1, or have to play 1 out. So they could play it on theirs, they could play it on an opponent. So maybe they decide to put it here. Then they're also going to play a combat card. And again, they have this side and this side. So maybe they put their combat card right there. Then it'll move back to the other player. And let's say they decide to again play a unit card. And maybe they play this Scout Bioroid. So we'll play it here. It's going to generate 2 of these battle tokens. We're going to have to play 1 out, so maybe we put it here. And it says we actively scout the enemy by revealing 1 enemy combat card. Again, probably not the best time to have played it since the enemy has 1, but maybe it is. Maybe we want to see early. And we see that they put out their 9. So then it's going to go back to the other player once we play our combat card. So maybe we play a combat card here. And we'll go back and forth like this until eventually all of this is filled out. Now each player is going to end up playing their base card. They're going to end up playing 2 location cards and 5 of their unit cards, so not all of them, and then all of their combat cards. So what I'm going to do real quick, and this will just blink by for you folks, but I'm going to set up everything as if a whole game was played so we can move into the next phase. Okay, so now we've gone through as if we've done a whole game. I've put out some tokens just so you can folks see how this works. And now we're going to move into the token phase. Now during that last phase, players had collected up battle tokens. And if they played the right cards, they may have also collected these specials such as the cluster bombs or the drop ship, allowing them to also have these. So we'll say maybe they had this one. So they'll be able to play these tokens, and each player is going to, on their turn, play exactly 2 of these tokens out. So they could play this here, this here. This one could maybe decide to put both of these here. This guy decides to play here and here. She decides to play maybe here, here. I'm not going to make you go through this. You get the idea. I'm real quick just going to put out a few extra tokens and be right back. Again, it'll blink for no time for you. All right, so after this, after all the tokens have been played, we're going to move into the hero and command. Now, each player has 4 hero cards and 4 command cards, and they're going to go back and forth playing one of these cards until each player has played exactly 2 hero cards and 2 command cards. Now, this is where we're going to reverse player order, so this player is going to now go first. So maybe they decide to play one of their hero cards. So let's say they decide to play Nova Satori here. Prioritize target, place 3 battle tokens on a single battlefield card that does not belong to you. So they're going to be pulling those from here, and maybe they decide to put it on this one here. And then this one maybe decides to play a command card. They're going to go back and forth like this until, again, each player has played exactly 2 command, 2 hero, and then we're going to move to the scoring phase. Now, in the scoring phase, the first thing you can do to clean this up is you can simplify down, such as simplifying fractions, to clean up the tokens so you can just cancel them out. So let's say we decide to pull these 2 out. We'll just look at each one and we'll remove one of each player's token just to make the scoring simpler for us. So let me do that real quick. All right, so I've went ahead and cleaned that up to make this easier. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip over all of the command cards. All right, so in a blink, they're all flipped over. Obviously, I meant combat cards. So now we're just going to go through and we're gonna check each one for a winner. And each one has victory points, but we're going to check the row and column of each player to that card. So in the case of, let's say this one here, this player has 6 and 8, so that's going to give them 14 plus this token. They're going to have 15. This one has 8 and 4, so they're going to have 12. So that's going to go to the Robotech Masters. So we're going to place one of their victor tokens on there. We'll go to the next one here just to show you again. We've got 8 and 7, so that's 15. We've got 4 and 6, 10, 11. So that's actually going to go to the Army of the Southern Cross here. We're going to go through until we've figured out a winner for each of the cards out here. Then each player is going to check their objectives. Told you we'd get back to those. And as said, each player had 2 of those at the beginning of the game. They're only going to get to score 1 of them though, even if they've done both. So let's look at hers over here. She has one for 4 and 5. Even if she were to have done both, capture both bases and deploy and protect 3 of her bioroids, she actually could only score 1, so obviously she would take the 5. You're going to count up the victory points on each card that you won. If you got one of your objectives, you're going to get the points from that, and then whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. So that's a look at Robotech Crisis Point. Now, as I said in the overview, this is the second game that I've looked at from SolarFlare Games in the Robotech universe. The first one being the Robotech Force of Arms, which was also a little 2-player card game that was asymmetrical in nature that I did enjoy, but it was a little simple and could be a little messy. But so I was really curious, would this game be better? Would it shine more? And I was assured by SolarFlare Games that this game would fix a lot of the little issues that I had. While I did enjoy the game, I wanted more strategy to it. And I am happy to say that this game does have a lot more strategy to it than a Force of Arms. Now, I still enjoy a Force of Arms, but I definitely enjoyed this one a lot better. First off, there's a lot more decision making going in. I like how I'm putting out those unit cards, I'm putting out locations, and I'm thinking about when to play them. I'm thinking about how to react to my opponent. And there are times my opponent does something, and then I think, man, I wish I had just waited a second longer to play that particular card because now it would be so much more powerful. And I'm thinking about those combat cards, how I play them. And that is a hidden game of trying to figure out where my opponent might be trying to protect versus where I'm trying to protect. And so you're really just kind of mathing things out. And I like that the game forces me to put out the 1 token during the game. It makes things smoother in terms of the token phase being a little shorter, but it also really does kind of give me clues as to what my opponent is trying to do based on where they're putting their tokens. And then moving into that token phase, I really just enjoy that give and take back and forth. And then that final push in the hero command phase, where so it makes it feel like a Force of Arms did, but in this much grander scale, despite the fact it's still just a 2-player game. I like that they commissioned new artwork for it. I like that it's advancing the storyline from a Force of Arms. And I really, really do like the artwork in this game quite a bit. I appreciate the fact that I can clean up in the token phase to really make things simpler for me. That was really helpful. One thing that I did kind of harp on a little in the old game Force of Arms was that the scoring phase was just a little messy. And this is clean, this is simple, it's fast, and I really do enjoy that. Now, not saying this game isn't without some issues. It's not, though, in the gameplay. It's the rulebook. Unfortunately, the rulebook needed a little more time in editing. I did have to ask them for some clarifications. There's one spot in the rulebook where I'm reading something and it's broken to another page. Unfortunately, there's artwork in between the two, so I didn't even realize the two went together. So I was asking for clarification that was in the rulebook. There's also a minor thing where it says that you need to play at least one of your battle tokens that you generate. You actually just play one of them. You can't choose to play more. But overall, I did find this to be streamlined. I found it to be thematic. I do find that the game ramps up as you play it, and with the number of times you play it, it gets better as you learn your deck of cards. Another small issue I had with it that I understand the reason for, but I found finicky, is the fact that I only play 2 of the strategic locations that I have in 5 units, which causes me to have to math out how many cards I have. And I did find that players, a lot of times their first play or so, got that wrong, and it caused you to have to kind of backwards the game a little and retcon things and realize suddenly I have 6 units out. But it's nothing that you don't get used to after a while, and once you learn the deck, it's really cool to then switch over to the other side and learn how that deck plays. So overall, if you're looking for a 2-player game that's streamlined, is pretty, and in the Robotech universe, and has a pretty decent learning time on it, this is one to definitely take a look at. So that's going to be Robotech Crisis Point. I hope you've enjoyed this look at it, and it's helped you decide if it might be right for you and those you play games with. And I look forward to seeing you folks next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.